Welcome back to Dynamic Entry, Desk Edition. Check that out, isn't that nice? Look at Goku. So, today, we're going to do a little bit more of a casual setup as Nate and I talk about things we might not like. Now, I know what you're saying, dear listener. Hey, Chris, professional henchman, I know all the things you don't like, and that's true. I'm very vocal about those. But we decided to do something a bit more positive, and we're going to share some things that we happen to like about games and anime and shows that we actually don't care for. You know, spread the positivity around a little bit. So one thing that bothers me as a fan of anime is that while it's more accepted these days to like the genres and to be a part of the community, in the past, you didn't tell anybody that you liked anime because it mostly made you look like a pervert. One anime in particular that I remember watching as a kid, before the Toonami days, it was like right when I got cable, Stars used to do this thing where they had anime, which was really weird to me. And they had a show in particular called Tenjo Tenge, which follows the story of a bunch of high school kids that beat the shit out of each other. Got a high school style. Except it wasn't surrounding a bunch of crazy gods coming down to Earth and changing things. This was still a little magical in its way, but the biggest problem I had with it was the fact that it was one of those animes where you're like, oh yeah, the fan service is where they make 99% of their money here. But the reason I like it so much is Tenjo Tenge, for being a school rumble type anime, was also actually pretty gory. There's plenty of scenes in this show that you can look up online where you see people getting absolutely beaten to a pulp. Like Kengan Ashura or Baki bad. Like bad. But the big thing that detracts from the actual series itself is the fact that it is mostly just a fan service show. And there's tons like that. I mean, you could look at Quad S Gridman with Rika. You could look at Naruto with Hinata in the filler episodes. They really did it. It's an unfortunate trope, and this show, while it suffers from it, did actually have some really good action scenes, and it's why I chose it as a show that I'd be a little positive about today.
You know, it's not a bad setup. It's pretty nice. But to be honest, we just didn't feel like moving this shit out of the way. So, a little behind the scenes look there. So, I don't like it. But here's another thing I don't like, but I'll say something nice about it anyway. Boruto. Okay, I know if you are a classic Naruto old head, you're like Boruto was trash. Doesn't compare to the original series, which I get, which is how I feel about it. The first 200 fucking episodes are just all filler leading up to the movie that came out before the series, which is dumb. But we're here to say nice things about things we don't like, so one nice thing I'll say about it is the current arc that's going on. It's kind of interesting. We got some cool fights, and it's progress in my mind. I'm maturing. I'm able to look past things that I don't like, and Boruto being one of them. But I will admit, the fights that they've been putting out lately, like the Sasuke fight, and the Momo fight, / Boruto taking the eye, that whole thing, and the Kawaki introduction fight, that was pretty dope. Got a little excited watching it. So, that's a nice thing. Take that, Boruto.
Now I'm going to level with you. If you've listened or watched this show in any capacity, you know I don't really play a whole bunch of the shooters. I am more of an RPG kind of guy. I mean, even here at the desk, I have my Dungeons and Dragons, one of my many books here, you know? That's really my jam. But, in my opinion, though I may not personally like the game, I think one of the best video games for pop culture enthusiasts these days, or for people who are fans of literally anything, is Fortnite. I'll say it again, I think the best pop culture game available, shooter or otherwise, is Fortnite. You gotta understand. I knew Fortnite as far back as when it was, you know, a zombie tower defense game. Yeah, that's totally what it was in the beginning. And it's evolved into something completely different these days and was one of the most popular games on the planet for literal years. But the reason I think it deserves so much praise is they've continuously innovated the way that the mechanics inside of the game work. And as the game itself has progressed, they've basically just thrown anything to the wall because it always sticks. I mean, Sigourney Weaver is Ridley in the game, or maybe you liked Red vs. Blue when Rooster Teeth did the show. Those guys are in the game too. So's Eddie Brock and Venom, Rick Sanchez, fucking Naruto, the Hokage, that guy. All of them. really weird. Queuing up for matches and seeing like Doctor Doom and the Mandalorian and Rick Sanchez is just super weird. It's a culture shock for me because it's kind of like my comment that I said a bit ago where like anime wasn't super accepted back then. Nerd culture coming up in the 90s was big for sure, but there was a lot of contention between like nerd culture and popular culture. Great example is Mortal Kombat when that first came out, eventually birthing the ESRB because of how violent it was, setting a divide between regular consumers and media consumers like us. So, while we haven't always seen eye to eye, Fortnite, in some very strange, weird marketing pyramid scheme, bridges that gap. Big Corp gets the money that they want, kids get to play as literally whoever the fuck they want in a sandbox-style environment, and I gotta say, I wish we had a game like that when I was a kid. Would have been really cool.
Let's see, what do I not like? Skyrim. Chris likes Skyrim. That's a good point, or a good idea in my head. So Skyrim, I'm not a fan of it because I'm not a big fan of open world games. I like them, but the thing is, I get overwhelmed because there's so many things to do, and I just want my linear story. I'll be done with it. I'm good to go. I want to feel accomplished in my life, in my spare time, while I'm enjoying my spare time, if that makes any sense to you. I need a purpose of doing things. I can't just go free. I don't like that. I do that in life already. I can just do, what I want for the most part. So, Skyrim. As much as I don't like this game, I think that culturally it was pretty important, and I can recognize how big it is and the fact that it's influenced games that have came after that. Obviously, it wasn't the first open world game. There was Grand Theft Auto, there was like Saints Row and shit. Was that before Skyrim? Probably. But I mean, older Elder Scrolls games, there was obviously open world too. But anyway, I feel like games are taken from Skyrim so much, and it's been culturally relevant for years. Just like GTA, it's been cross-platform, multiple generations. It gets remade all the time, and it's hard to deny the fact, or not deny the fact, but deny its impact on gaming. So I will say that Skyrim is an important game, and I'm glad that it came out for the audience, and that's about as nice as I'll get on Skyrim.
I'm not a big fan of all this positivity, but we're going to keep the train going anyway. And next up, I'm going to tell you about something I don't like, but I'm going to say nice things about. The Nintendo Switch. By golly, I got to tell you, out of all of the video game consoles that I've ever seen, I was looking for mine right now. I don't see it, so I'm not going to grab it as a prop. But out of all the video game consoles that I've ever seen or played or sold or tested or anything, the Nintendo Switch is interesting, to say the least. Though I feel like it was the most appropriate console for Nintendo to manufacture and eventually put out, given that their focus has always been a little closer towards the mobile gaming side. And I don't mean Dokkan Battle, I don't mean Candy Crush, I mean getting up and moving with your game. You know what I mean? But outside of that, the Nintendo Switch created a bit of a craze where everyone was gaming again. Kind of like when Pokemon Go came out for the first time. Like, it brought world peace for a little bit where everybody was playing Pokemon Go and nobody was doing anything else, which was kind of nice. The Switch had a similar effect in that once it did come out, between Smash, Super Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, eventually Monster Hunter Rise, and other games that have come out now, it has stayed a cultural phenom. I mean, shit, Smash players just got Sora. Never thought that was going to happen. Good job, Sony. All in all, while the console itself had its shortcomings at initial release, and we all remember the fiascos that were drift controls and drift problems with your controls, overall, the console in itself has brought a way to bring in more novice-level gamers, I'll say, or entry-level gamers who may not have ever played anything before, to finally start playing again. Maybe you just got your first Pokemon game. Maybe Animal Crossing is your new horizon for nerddom, and that's pretty cool. You gotta appreciate any time a console opens the floodgates for anybody to be able to enjoy. Listen, if you're not an anime fan, the PlayStation isn't a great console for you. If you don't like shooters, maybe Xbox isn't your jam. And for people like me who are on PC, I mean, if you're not sitting here modding your games, you're not getting a lot of value out of it. Conversely, the Switch can be taken anywhere, charges with most normal USB-C type chargers, which a lot of phones have these days. And outside of all of that, It's got the big heavy hitters. You still got your Super Marios. It's getting Metroid Dread when that comes out. Legend of Zelda, Pokemon, I could go on. These are some of the most impactful games of any young gamer child's childhood. And aside from that, the Switch was the first major jump for Nintendo as a company to start licensing for other games. I mean, Doom is on it, man. Doom! Crazy.
All right, so next up on my, I don't know what to call this. Being honest here, I feel like I'm in a confessional for like Real World. It's pretty funny. So I guess this is a confessional. So isekais as just a genre, I despise them. Why? Because they're saturated. They're oversaturated, rather. I don't like that every season of anime there is at least 5 isekai. There's just so many of them. So I don't like the genre in general. So anytime it's already labeled as an isekai, like, hey, this new anime is coming out, it's an isekai, I'm like, I'll pass on it. I don't really want to watch it. So even if it is good, I'm not going to want to watch it. What I will say about it that I do happen to enjoy is they got cool concepts. So if they don't have the storylines, or I guess the writing that the shows have, like Sword Art got weird after a while. What else is there? There's like Rising of Shield Hero, which I hear is good. All that stuff, it's like the idea of them is cool. It's cool to get sucked into a video game. It's cool to just have a shield as your weapon. It's cool to, what is it? I buffed out my defense, Bofuri, right? You just boost your defense and you think about outside the world or whatever. So I think they have a lot of cool concepts. So that's what I do enjoy about isekais. Maybe if they weren't, I don't know what it is. There's just something that I don't like about them, even if they are good. Maybe I'm just a hater. That's probably what it comes down to. But the fact is, I like the overall idea of getting sucked into a video game or getting transferred to another world. That's a cool concept. But whenever I do watch them, I get bored. I'm like, ugh. Mainly the video game centered ones. As much as I like video games, just the video game centered shows, I'm like, that's not that cool. Maybe because I'm in the mindset of I'd rather play it than watch it. That might be it. But yeah. Anyway, isekais as a whole genre, it's a cool concept. But I hate it still.
You know, on the topic of shows, right? On the topic of isekais, what's going on, Sword Art? What are you doing? What happened somewhere down that road where you went from being a strange inter-electronic dimensional horror about people being stuck inside of a video game with brain aneurysms, being potentially on the table at all times, causing tons of fear because you can't get back home and you might also die in a split second. And then you became like a slice of life, constant beach episode harem. I don't know. But positivity, right? Let me tell you. As much crap as we'll give Sword Art, and shows like Sword Art, these type of shows have really big budgets. And in the case of Sword Art, some of my favorite sword fights have come from the show. I know, it's a little weird. If you remember back to the sword fight list that we had, the fight between General Eugene and Kirito is actually one of my big ones because of the fact that the entire thing takes place in air. And it's these cool angles that you don't normally see in anime, which I think was my point back then too. But there's a lot of shots like that they do in Sword Art. These really big, huge, expansive shots where they zoom out and they show the world as a whole, and it shows just how small you are in the greater scheme of things. It does a really good job of putting into perspective how perilous the journey as a whole is, and it gives you this really strange insight on how people's psyches might be affected by being put in a situation like that where they get to essentially rewrite the rules of the world. Not just for themselves, but for tons of people who are having to adjust to a now digitized existence. And to be honest, it was still a really good concept then. And it might not have been the first isekai, we all know that was Mushoku Tensei, but it still did it really well. And it's kind of got those Hori Mia notes, you know, with Kirito and Asuna, but I really like Hori and Miyamura a lot more as a romantico. Anyway, I was trying to be positive. The sword fights are pretty good in it. I like the choreography. Go back to that.
I've been trying really hard to figure out something nice to say about things. It's just I have so much hate inside me. I just can't bring myself to do it. No, in all realness, I guess Netflix anime. Let's talk about that for a second, I suppose. So, most of it out there is just brought over to the States or onto the, I guess, a streaming platform through Netflix. So it was made, Japan, whatever, it aired there, and then Netflix buys the rights to it and makes it. Like Beastars. Beastars came out way before it came out here in the States, and then it gets released eventually here. It's not a silent release. Some of them are, but some of them aren't. So I guess overall, with Netflix anime, a lot of them have been bad. They've been getting better, but a lot of them are pretty trash. And so I guess I want to say about the original Netflix anime that came out, because the stuff that they do license through other companies that they bring in, whatever, like Beastars is really good, Dorohedoro is really good, Baki's hit or miss, stuff like that. Like it's gotten better. But the early Netflix anime that came out, which I can't even think of the name, I just remember like
Knights of Sidonia.
Yeah, that one, the space one with the cockroaches, that was weird. And then there were some that were just like so bad. So I want to say that I like those original Netflix anime, because without them we wouldn't have the better anime that's coming out now on Netflix. So I guess that would be the thing. So I like that about you, Netflix, that you took a chance and brought some sort of animated content to your streaming platform and allowed you guys to grow. Obviously it's a business move because you want to capitalize on that, and you kind of did it before the big boom of anime now, how it is now, and everyone's watching it. So you were one of the first to just be like, hey, let's take a chance and let's bring some anime here, even though it's like our in-house creators. And whether it's good or bad, we're going to put it out, and we're going to label it as anime, and there you go. So, that's, I guess, Netflix original anime, thank you. Because without the original, we would not have the better original anime. I guess that's what I'm going to say. I like Netflix. I think that's what it is altogether. And I love that I hate so many things. That's how I'm going to end this video. Just hating is underrated. You should be a hater more often in your life. Okay? Just, as the Chappelle Show skit says.
I don't even know you. I hate your guts.
Hate. Hate, hate, hate. I'm out.
Well, we might have thought it was impossible, but hey, we made it through a whole video while being predominantly positive. Just a few final notes. I think that as nonsensical as Dragon Ball is, it's still quite an enjoyable show. But bring back Super Saiyan 4. Cowards. You cowards. Okay, that's the last nice thing I'm going to say. Past that, I'm going to go back to being negative me. But if you're looking for the negative we being Dynamic Entry pod and show and videos and all kinds of stuff, well, you can find that here on YouTube, or maybe you want to take a look at us on TikTok, Instagram, or hey, maybe you just want to listen to the podcast, which is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you could probably find one. We do appreciate you for taking the time to come to our little tiny desk video today, and we hope to see you in the next one.